Hello and welcome. In this video, let's understand how we can implement a role-based authorization in .NET Web API. So in the past couple of videos, what we have achieved, we have created one identity project. This project is responsible to create a token. And in the second video, we went ahead and used that token and implemented authentication in this project, that is app.main, and we were able to secure this particular endpoint, that is get weather forecast. Okay, and if you notice here in this weather forecast, we are hard coding this 5 here. Basically, using this number, we are telling for how many days we want to get the weather data. If I change this number to 2, after that I will get the data only for 2 days. So let's do one thing. I will remove this hard-coded value from here and move it to a class level variable. So I have created this variable underscore days and I have initialized the value of this as 5. Now, instead of hard coding the value here, I will use underscore days here. Right. And now I want to give a capability to the user so that they can modify the value of this days variable. Okay. For that, let's create an endpoint. That will be basically an HTTP post endpoint. So I will add an action method with HTTP post. Right. And the path that I want to give here is, let's say, change days. Right. And I want to receive the number of days that they want to modify, and I will be taking it here. And now let's add the method. Okay, so this is a very simple method. I am taking the days variable in the section method and I'm setting the class level variable using that. After doing that, let's do one thing. Let's remove this authorize keyword from here and let's put it at the get method, right? So currently our this endpoint is protected, but this endpoint is not protected. Anyone can come and change the value of the days. Let's first see this in action and later we will see how we can protect this endpoint. Right. Let's first run our identity server. So let's select the identity project here and run it. Okay, so my application is running at 716 port number. So let's go to the postman and change the port number here. Let's change it to 7163. Right, and send the request, and we have received the token. Now let's do one thing. Let's go back to Visual Studio and stop this application. And now let's run our main application, that is our web API. Okay. So my application is running and it is running at 7052 port. So let's go back to Postman. And here I think the endpoint is correct, but I need to change my port number. Let's change to 7052 and let's provide the token which we have generated here. I'll copy this and I'll put it here. And if I send my request, I'm getting 200. And if I don't send this header, I will get 401 because our endpoint is protected. So this particular endpoint, which we saw here, this one is protected because we have decorated this with authorized keyword. But this particular endpoint will not be protected. So let's do one thing, go to Postman and try to hit that particular URL. And let's use the correct port number, that is 7052 here. And this is an post URL, right? Because we have decorated the action method with HTTP post. So we need to use the word post here and let's send it. I'm getting 200. Okay. And if you notice, I have sent 2 here. Now what would have happened? 2 will be coming here and it will set our days variable to 2. Now, if I send the request for the get weather again, I will get only 2 objects. That's correct. I am getting weather for 2 days. And if I change my number here to, let's say, 9 and send it, okay, it is 200. Okay. And if I send my request again, I'm getting weather for 9 days, right? I'm getting 9 objects here. Okay. Now, what I want to achieve here, right? This particular endpoint, which is able to change the number of days, should be protected. And instead of having the normal protection, what we want to do, we want to make sure only an admin is able to make this change. Normal users should not be able to change the number of days, right? So we want to implement a role-based authorization here. So first of all, to implement a role-based authorization, what we need to do, we need to add a claim in our token. If you remember, when we were creating our token, let's come back to this class, that is JWT Authentication Manager class in app.identity project. And you can see here, we were adding this claim here, that was the name, and we were adding the username here, correct? Similarly, what I want to do, I want to add a claim of role, and that I want to set here. If the user is admin, then I want to set a claim. Name of that claim will be role, and the value of that claim will be admin. Okay. Now let's see how we can do that. First of all, I will need some data that will tell me if the user is admin or not. For that, let's create a list of string that will keep the username who are admin. Right. So I have added this particular list, right? And currently I have only one username here, that is test1. So basically what I'm saying, test1 is an admin. Let's do one thing. Instead of adding the claim here, let's declare a variable of ilist claim. Okay, so this will be the list of claims. We can call it claims equal to new list of claim. And now what I can do, I can just add this particular claim in this, say claims dot add, and I will add this claim. Okay, and let me do one thing. Let's remove this from here, and now we can use our claims variable. Right. Now, what I want to do, if my user is an admin, I want to add an claim that will be of role type and the value will be admin. So first let's check if the user is admin or not. For that we can use an if. I'll say admins dot contains and the username. So if the username is present in the admins list, it means the user is an admin. So we can go ahead and add the claim for the user. So let's add claims dot add. It will be a new instance of claim, and the claim type here will be the role, and the value of this claim will be admin. Okay. So basically what I'm saying here, if the username is present in the admins list, meaning the user is an admin, we are adding a claim here that is of type role. Okay. And the value of that claim is admin. Okay. Now let's run this identity project. I'll select the identity project from here, and I will run this application. And if we check the application, it is running on 716 report number. Now coming back to the Postman, and here we were generating the token, and currently I am generating the token with test2 username. And if you notice, test2 username is not an admin. When I will create a token for this particular user, okay, so this is the token. So I have this website document here. Let's paste the token here, and you can see this particular user is not having that role claim, right? So we don't have that role claim here. But if I change the username to test1 and password 1, now this time this username is a admin user. If I generate a token for this particular user, let's copy this and paste it on the same website. You can see here we have this role as admin, right? So this role is added for our admin user. Now let's see how we can use this role claim and authorize our web API. Now let's open the Visual Studio again. Stop this application. Now let's go back to the program.cs class file of the main API project, that is app.main. Here, after adding this authentication, we need to add the authorization also. So let's add this by saying builder.services.add authorization. All right. And here we need to provide a policy here. Basically, that will be our authorization policy. So let's do one thing, add a class in our app.main project. I will call it identity data. And in this class file, I will just have one public string of constant type, and I will call it admin user policy. And let's give it a name. I'll just give it as admin, right? So this is basically my policy name. We will use this policy when adding the authorization in our program.cs class. So when adding this authorization, so let's say options, I will be using the lambda expression here. I will say options dot add policy. And here, first we need to specify what is the policy name. And the policy name will be coming from our identity data class. So right here, we have the policy name. So let's use this. I'll say identity data dot admin user policy. And after this, p dot require role method. And the role should be there of admin, right? So basically what I'm saying, I'm adding a policy with this name, and in this I'm adding a policy. This is our policy. The policy is basically saying requires role. Policy will check if there is a role claim with value admin, right? After doing this, let's go to our controller class, right? First, we need to make our method protected. So let's add the authorize keyword here. Now our method is protected, but this is not what we want. We want to make sure this endpoint is only accessible for the admins. So we can specify the policy within this authorize attribute. I'll say policy equal to, and again we can use our identity data class. I'll say identity data dot admin user policy. Okay. Once that is done, let's do one thing. Let's change this to app.main and run this application, right? And open the Postman. Currently, we have this token that is basically a admin. This token belongs to an admin user. So what I can do, I can come back here where we are invoking this change days method. And if I try to send the request without sending the JWT token, I will be getting the 401 unauthorized. So let's do one thing, go to headers and add authorization here and add the bearer keyword and paste the token, right? So this is the token that belongs to an admin. If I send this, you can see I'm getting 200 OK, right? And when I send this request here, I will get 9 because we have changed the days here to 9. But if I change here to 1 and send it, I will get 200 OK. And if I send my get request again, I'll get only one data, right? So our role-based authorization is working as expected. And to make sure a normal user is not able to make this change, let's generate a token that will be for test user 2 and password 2. I'll send this. So basically I need to start my web API application first. So let's go back to the Visual Studio, stop this, select the identity project and run that. Let's come back to Postman and try to send this again. Now I have a token that belongs to a normal user, meaning this user is not an admin. I will copy this token and I'll go back to Visual Studio. I'll stop this application and I will select app.main and run the application again, right? And this time And I will try to send the request for change status with a normal token, meaning this token does not belong to an admin. Let's paste the token here and send the request. You can notice here I'm getting 403. This is not 401 that is unauthorized. This is 403, meaning it is a forbidden. Token is valid, meaning the user is a valid user, but user is not having sufficient access to access this particular endpoint. Only an admin can go ahead and access this endpoint, right? Let me recap what we have done to implement this authorization. Okay, first of all, I'll go to my JWT Authenticate Manager class. Here we have created a list. This list will basically tell me who is admin and who is not. And I am checking if the username that we are getting is present in our admins list. If it is the case, then we are adding a claim here in our token. That claim of type role and the value of that claim is admin, right? After that is done, what we have done in our app.main project, in the program.cs class, we have added this add authorization. This add authorization method will take an action. So I have added that action using the lambda expression, and I have invoked the add policy method here. And this is the policy name, which is coming from our class, that is identity.data, right? So we have specified the policy name here, and this is the actual policy. This policy says the user should need an role with value admin, right? Once that is done, we went ahead to our controller class, and here, when decorating the method with authorize keyword within the authorize attribute, we have also passed down the policy name. Basically, what we are saying, this action method can only be accessed by the user who is fulfilling the requirements that are mentioned by this policy. And this policy, again, if I tell you, this policy requires a claim of admin type. This is how you can implement authorization based on the roles of the user in your web APIs.